Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking that shocking May 2026 declassification of U.S. government UFO files and decoding the historical pattern behind them. It's an absolutely fascinating mystery to untangle, mostly because the data we're looking at today completely changes how we view this whole phenomenon.
Okay, let's just dive right in. Are we alone, or are we looking at a highly coordinated, decades-long cover-up? To answer that, we really have to look closely at the evidence that was just dropped right into the public's lap.
Section 1. The Modern UFO Mystery. Recent Sightings.
Now, to really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of what we're dealing with today, we have to look at an extraordinary, fully documented event from just a few years back. We're not talking about isolated claims from, conspiracy theorists here. These are sworn statements from 6 highly trained federal agents. In 2023, during a routine operation, they witnessed a massive glowing orange orb hovering right in the sky. And it didn't just sit there. It acted like a mothership, literally launching smaller red orbs that zipped around in impossible formations. Then, when an intelligence team returned to that exact same spot in a helicopter in 2025, they saw another orb. When they approached it, it instantly jumped 20 miles away, moving so incredibly fast the helicopter couldn't even attempt to follow it. We're talking about objects executing 90-degree turns at 80 miles per hour, maneuvers that would just rip any known human aircraft to shreds.
And that brings us to a massive number, 162. Because on May 8, 2026, the U.S. Department of War blew this entire subject wide open. They dropped exactly 162 previously highly classified UFO files straight to the public. This wasn't just some quiet weekend release either. It was a massive data dump on a brand new portal, war.gov/UFO. We're talking 28 previously unseen videos, 14 unreleased images, plus a whole trove of FBI documents and NASA transcripts. All in all, the files outline about 400 incredibly strange cases from literally all over the globe, from Greece to Iraq, Syria to Japan. This data revealed a massive global phenomenon of objects doing physically impossible things and then simply disappearing, leaving even the most advanced military in the world seemingly baffled. Section 2, Sightings Beyond Earth. Astronaut Encounters.
But you see, this mystery doesn't just hover over our oceans and deserts, it actually extends all the way into the vacuum of space. Back in 1965, just 4.5 hours into the Gemini 7 mission, astronaut Frank Borman radioed Houston with this exact quote, "Bogey at 10 o'clock high." Now, in military terminology, a bogey means an unidentified aircraft or missile. You use that word in a war zone on Earth, right? Not floating miles above it. Ground control assumed it was just a piece of the rocket booster, but Borman confirmed she could see the booster completely separate from this unidentified object.
And this totally wasn't a one-off event. Let's look at the Apollo missions for a second. In 1969, Buzz Aldrin reported unexplained cabin flashes and strange laser-like lights on the moon. During Apollo 12, astronauts saw unusual flashes and particles near their landing site. And honestly, perhaps most astonishingly, during the Apollo 17 mission in 1972, a photograph actually captured 3 distinct, unexplained dots forming a perfect triangle right above the lunar surface. Even today, preliminary analysis from the government concedes these could be actual physical objects. Of course, astronauts like Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin have suggested natural explanations over the years, like sunlight reflecting off smooth surfaces or rogue atomic particles, but the sheer volume of these off-world sightings leaves a massive question mark hanging over us. Section 3. Birth of the Saucer. The 1947 Hysteria. So, to figure out what's really flying up there today, we kind of need to step back in time. Everything changed in the summer of 1947. On June 24th, a pilot named Kenneth Arnold spotted 9 shining objects flying over Mount Rainier at twice the speed of any known aircraft. Then, just a couple of weeks later, a farmer named Mac Bruzzle found this bizarre, unidentifiable debris in his field in Roswell, New Mexico.
By July 8th, the local Army airfield put out a literal press release claiming they had recovered a flying disc. I mean, the world went absolutely crazy. But then, literally the very next day, the military made this massive, sudden U-turn and told the press, oh, actually, never mind, it's just a weather balloon. This rapid, incredibly suspicious sequence of events triggered absolute global hysteria, leading to over 300 UFO sightings worldwide in just 6 months.
Now, do you know where the term flying saucer actually comes from? It's pretty wild. When Kenneth Arnold described his sighting to a reporter, he didn't say the crafts were shaped like saucers. He actually said they moved erratically, skipping across the sky the way a saucer skips when you throw it across the lake. But the reporter completely misunderstood him, printed the words flying saucers, and basically accidentally invented our global vocabulary for alien spacecraft. Our entire cultural concept of aliens was born out of a simple media misunderstanding. So, to calm the ensuing panic over these saucers, the U.S. government launched Project Blue Book. Over 17 years, they investigated over 12,000 cases. The vast majority of them, over 11,000 cases, were easily explained away as weather balloons, stars, satellites, or just ordinary planes. But check this out. A persistent sliver of 701 cases remained stubbornly, inexplicably unidentified.
Section 4. The geopolitical pattern. Where are they?
Now, if we want to solve the mystery of those 701 unidentified cases, it's time to stop looking up at the sky and start looking down at a map. When we compare historical sighting hotspots from the 1950s and 60s with modern ones from the 2020s, an undeniable geopolitical pattern emerges. Back in the Cold War, UFOs were almost exclusively spotted over the USA, the Soviet border, and Germany. But today, the modern hotspots are Iraq, Syria, Japan, and the Strait of Hormuz.
Which brings us to probably the most revealing fact of this entire explainer. UFOs are consistently seen exactly where the U.S. military and its advanced monitoring systems are most active. Think about it. We always joke about why aliens only ever attack New York City in the movies, right? But in reality, we really should be asking, why do these intergalactic travelers exclusively visit heavily armed U.S. military bases and active human war zones?
Section 5. Unmasking the truth. Solving the mystery.
This geographical pattern is the exact key that unlocks the terrestrial truth hiding behind the extraterrestrial myth. Let's break down the reality behind some of these myths. Remember the Roswell crash? Well, in 1994, it was declassified that it was actually part of Project Mogul, which was a top-secret U.S. spy balloon designed to monitor Soviet nuclear tests. And what about those famous alien bodies? A 1997 Air Force report confirmed they were actually aviation test dummies, and in some really tragic cases, plane crash victims. The U.S. government basically deliberately allowed the alien illusion to thrive because, well, it provided the absolute perfect cover story for testing their own highly classified spy tech. Fast forward to today, those modern orbs those federal agents are seeing, they are incredibly likely to be foreign surveillance tech. We know China has developed high-altitude spy balloons and drone motherships capable of launching smaller crafts. In the Middle East, advanced radar is constantly picking up Iranian and Houthi surveillance drones.
And the government's own investigations actually back this up. In February 2024, the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO for short, released a definitive report, and their conclusion? There is zero evidence that the U.S. government possesses extraterrestrial technology and zero evidence they're reverse engineering alien craft. They concluded that the vast majority of these modern sightings are really just drones, balloons, rockets, or natural phenomena that happen to get caught on highly sophisticated military sensors.
Now, it's really important to note all perspectives here when we analyze why this massive 162 file dump happened in 2026. According to the source material, critics and analysts argue that releasing these files without proper context or scientific analysis serves a very specific purpose: political distraction. Some analysts suggest that dumping UFO videos into the news cycle is a calculated move by administrations to fuel conspiracies and distract the public from pressing terrestrial controversies, administrative failures, or high-profile scandals like the Epstein files. Now, we aren't here to take a side on the politics at all, but looking at why data is released is just as important as the data itself.
And that brings us to this foundational scientific principle. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Look, I think we all secretly hope for proof of alien life, right? It's just human nature to look up at the stars and wonder. But low-quality, blurry infrared videos of drones pulling 90-degree turns simply do not meet the scientific standard required for the extraordinary claim that we're being visited by beings from another galaxy. The mundane, terrestrial explanations just simply make much more sense.
So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. The source files show us that mystery thrives where transparency is absent. If governments have used the myth of the flying saucer to hide their earthly secrets for the last 80 years, what terrestrial secrets are we currently missing while we're busy looking up at the stars? Keep your eyes open, keep analyzing the data, and most importantly, keep questioning what you see. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.